The desperate cry cut through the Wyoming heat like a knife, sharp enough to stop even the toughest man in his tracks. Tom Hodges froze in the saddle, his heart thudding once in his chest before going still. For 37 years he had worked this harsh land, and he knew every sound the desert made. The wind moaned through the canyons, coyotes howled at dawn and dusk, and sometimes the mind played tricks in the emptiness. But this sound was different. It was thin, weak, and filled with a kind of fear that made Tom's gut twist in a way he didn't understand. Gunner, his old quarter horse, lifted his ears and came to a halt on his own. The cry echoed again across the rocks and sagebrush. It wasn't a coyote. It wasn't wind. It wasn't anything Tom had ever heard on his ranch before. It was the cry of something small and dying. Tom wanted to ignore it. He had fences to check, cattle to move, and heat rising so fast the air shimmered above the ground. But the cry came again, softer this time, as if begging for one last chance at life. Against every instinct in his hardened body, Tom nudged Gunner toward the sound. They moved through scattered boulders and brittle brush until Tom spotted a shape hidden in the thin shade of a dead cottonwood tree. At first he thought it was just another coyote kill. But then the shape moved, trying to lift its head. Tom's breath caught when he realized what he was seeing. A Mustang Foal, no more than 6 weeks old. And dying. The little horse lay collapsed on the hot ground, skin raw and cracked from the worst mange Tom had ever seen. His coat had fallen away in patches, leaving angry red wounds exposed to the burning sun. His ribs stuck out beneath damaged skin, his breathing was shallow, and his eyes, cloudy with infection, held a pain that made Tom's throat tighten. "God help us," Tom whispered as he slid off Gunner. Any other wild foal would have scrambled away in panic, even if injured. But this one didn't have the strength. When Tom knelt beside him, the foal made a small sound, a soft plea that broke something inside the rancher, who thought he'd hardened himself to everything long ago. "You're in bad shape, little guy," Tom said quietly. "Real bad shape." The ground around the foal told its own story. Marks in the dirt showed where he had struggled to stand, to move, to survive. And the lack of hoof prints from any other horses told Tom he had been abandoned. Wild herds left behind the weak to protect the rest. It was harsh, but it was nature. Yet Tom couldn't walk away. He pulled out his phone, shocked to find a single bar of service. "Anna, it's Tom Hodges," he said when the veterinarian answered. "I need you out here, now. It's a wild Mustang Foal. Real bad condition, mange, malnutrition. He's asking for help." There was a long silence. Tom never called for wild horses, not once in 15 years. "Tom," Dr. Anna Blackwood finally said, "are you feeling all right?" "Just get out here," he snapped, giving her the location. "Bring everything you've got." Quote, when the call ended, Tom did something no one in Carbon County would believe unless they saw it. He sat down in the dirt beside the dying foal and shaded him from the sun with his own body. The heat pressed down on them like a heavy hand, but Tom didn't move. The foal relaxed slightly at the sound of his voice, resting his head against the ground. "I don't know why I'm doing this," Tom murmured. "I got plenty of work, things more important than sitting with a wild horse that ain't gonna make it." But he stayed. Because something about that little horse refusing to give up touched a part of Tom he thought had died a long time ago. 2 hours later, Dr. Blackwood arrived in her truck, stepping out fast when she saw Tom sitting in the heat beside a wild foal. "In all my years," she said softly, "I never thought I'd see this." "Can you save him?" Tom asked, standing slowly. Anna knelt beside the foal, her brow tightening as she examined him. "Tom, this foal should already be gone. The infections, the mange, the starvation. It's a miracle he's still breathing." "But," Tom asked, hearing a note of hope in her tone. "But he's fighting," she said, "and he trusts you. That may be the only reason he's alive." Tom looked at the foal again, and something inside him settled into place. "What will it take to get him back to the ranch?" he asked. Anna stared at him, stunned. "Tom, treating a wild horse with this level of mange will take time, money, and work, and he still might not make it. Tom knelt again beside the foal, meeting those cloudy eyes that somehow still held a spark. "I'm taking him," he said. "He ain't dying out here alone." Anna nodded slowly. "All right then, let's begin." As she started emergency treatment, Tom whispered the name that had been forming in his mind ever since he heard that first desperate cry. "Miracle," he said. "That's your name, Miracle." And in the burning Wyoming heat, the dying Mustang Foal seemed to understand. The ride back to the ranch took more than an hour, but it felt like a lifetime to Tom. He drove slow over the rough Wyoming terrain, checking the trailer every few minutes. Dr. Blackwood rode in the back beside the tiny foal, keeping him stable as the wheels bumped over dry washes and rocky ground. Miracle didn't fight. He didn't panic. He just lay there, too weak to lift his head, but calm whenever Tom's voice drifted through the open window. By the time they reached the ranch, the sun was blazing so hot that even the barn walls shimmered. Tom had already set up a small recovery pen near the barn. It was never meant for wild horses, but he had transformed it in hours. He'd added soft sand so nothing scraped Miracle's wounds, hung shade cloth to block the sun, and rigged old misters to cool the air. His ranch hands watched with raised brows, whispering among themselves. Tom Hodges building a healing pen for a wild Mustang? Nobody had words for that. When they carried Miracle into the cool pen, Anna got right to work. The treatment for advanced mange was rough and painful. Medicated baths burned on broken skin. Antibiotics stung. Fluids dripped slow into his thin body. But Miracle didn't scream or thrash. He watched Anna with tired eyes, then looked toward Tom every few seconds as if asking, "Am I safe?" "You're doing good," Tom told him quietly, resting a hand on the foal's neck. "Just hang on." Anna looked up at the hardened rancher, her expression softening. "Tom, he trusts you. I've never seen a wild foal do that." "He ain't wild no more," Tom said. "Not to me." The next 3 days were brutal. Anna warned him that the first 72 hours would decide everything. Miracle could die at any time. Tom barely slept. He checked the pen every hour, fed Miracle soft grain mash by hand, wiped him down with cool towels, and talked to him in a slow, steady voice that even surprised himself. The ranch hands didn't know what to make of it. Charlie Hayes, Tom's foreman of 20 years, finally walked up on the 4th day as Tom sat inside the pen feeding the foal with a spoon. "Boss," Charlie said, "you're making the crew nervous. You've never hovered over an animal like this." Tom didn't look away from Miracle, who was licking a bit of mash from his fingers. "Charlie, 3 days ago this little guy was dying alone. Now he's standing on his own feet. That's worth something." Charlie nodded, but the worry on his face didn't fade. "We just never seen you care like this." "I never had a reason to," Tom answered, and Charlie walked away quietly. On the 5th morning, something changed. Miracle took his first careful trot across the pen. His legs shook, but he pushed through it. New patches of hair were growing along his neck and chest. His eyes were finally clear. When Tom stepped into the pen with fresh mash, Miracle walked straight toward him without hesitation. "You see that?" Tom whispered, his chest tightening. "You're a fighter." Anna arrived later that morning, expecting the worst. Instead, she froze at the sight of Miracle trotting circles around Tom. "This is impossible," she said softly. "His healing rate is—" "Tom, I don't have words for this." Miracle wasn't just surviving, he was beating every expectation. But the most surprising part wasn't his body healing. It was his mind. It started small. One morning, Anna found his feed bucket placed neatly beside his water trough. That wasn't unusual. But the next morning, it was moved into the same spot again. And the next. Soon he was arranging little items in patterns, feed buckets, brushes, toys Tom had given him. "Wild foals don't organize things," Anna said, confused. "They don't have that kind of reasoning." Miracle was learning with impossible speed. He figured out the gate latch in 2 days, not to escape, but just to test it. When Tom walked toward him holding a hoof pick, Miracle lifted his foot before Tom knelt down. Charlie saw it happen and dropped his hat. "Boss, it's like he's read in your mind." But the moment that left everyone speechless happened when a new rescue arrived. Grace, an adult mare hit by a vehicle. She was terrified, hurt, and wouldn't let Anna near her. She paced, snorted, and nearly injured herself trying to flee. Then Miracle walked to the fence separating them. He made a soft, rhythmic sound. Not a normal foal sound. Something slow and deep, almost like a lullaby only horses understood. Grace froze. Her breathing slowed. Then she walked to the fence, touched noses with Miracle, and went still in a way she hadn't since the accident. Anna's jaw dropped. Tom, that foal just calmed her better than any medicine. Miracle wasn't just smart, he was something else. After that, experts started visiting the ranch. Dr. Harris, an equine behaviorist from Colorado State University, spent days studying Miracle. He set out puzzles with locks and hidden treats. Miracle solved each one in seconds. He analyzed the foal's interactions with humans and horses. Miracle seemed to understand what others needed before they did. "I've never seen this level of intelligence in a horse," Dr. Harris said. "Not in any animal, really." Tom didn't care about the science, he just knew one thing. The helpless foal he'd found dying in the Wyoming heat was becoming something extraordinary, and deep down, Tom feared something he hadn't said out loud. If Miracle kept growing like this, the world might come for him. Miracle was only 2 months old when he showed the first sign that something far greater stirred inside him. Tom noticed it one quiet morning as he finished feeding the cattle. Miracle stood in his pen, stiff, ears locked toward the open desert. His whole body was alert, but not afraid, focused. "What is it, boy?" Tom asked. 20 minutes later, Tom's phone rang. A rancher 15 miles away reported a Mustang Foal stuck in a cattle guard. Charlie was the first to speak what everyone was thinking. Boss Miracle knew. It happened again a week later, then again and again. Each time, Miracle showed distress, pacing, calling, staring toward the desert. Then a call would come in about an injured or trapped Mustang somewhere far away. Tom began writing down the times. The pattern was impossible to ignore. Miracle sensed danger long before humans did. Anna brought in more experts. Researchers from universities across the West showed up with notebooks, cameras, and equipment. But none of that mattered compared to what happened next. A missing yearling stallion had vanished into the Red Desert. Search teams had been trying for 4 days. Planes, drones, trackers. Nothing found him. Miracle paced for hours, crying in a way Tom had never heard, as if calling someone lost in the dark. Tom made a choice. "I'm taking him out there." Anna shook her head. "Tom, he's never gone back into the wild. It could stress him too much." "He's telling us something. We need to listen." They loaded Miracle into the trailer and drove toward the Red Desert search zone. The moment Tom led him out onto the sandy ground, Miracle froze. Then he began moving across the desert with purpose, following no trail, no scent, nothing visible to human eyes. For 3 long hours they followed the young Mustang through canyons, dry washes, and broken land. Then they heard it, a weak, desperate whinnying echoing through the rocks. The missing yearling was trapped in a narrow wash, unable to climb out. Miracle walked to the edge, calling softly until the trembling stallion answered. "He found him," Dr. Harris whispered. "He shouldn't be able to, but he did." From that day forward, Miracle wasn't just a foal, he was a phenomenon. Months passed. Miracle grew stronger, healthier, and even more intelligent. Word spread beyond Wyoming. Scientists came from across the country. Some wanted to study him. Some wanted to own him. Tom refused them all. "He's not for sale. He's not a lab animal. He's a Mustang. He belongs here." But the greatest test came when the Copper Mountain wildfire tore through the Red Desert with horrifying speed. Winds turned flames into walls. The fire raged across Mustang territory, trapping entire herds. Evacuation teams were desperate. Helicopters couldn't fly. Rangers couldn't reach the horses. Miracle had been pacing since dawn, more frantic than Tom had ever seen. When Tom opened the pen gate, Miracle ran straight to the trailer. "He knows," Tom breathed. "He's asking us to take him." Fire commanders hesitated, but desperation won. Miracle was transported to the fire's edge. As soon as he stepped out, he lifted his head and released a call that rang through the smoke-filled sky. Powerful, urgent, commanding. What happened next would be remembered forever. Through the heavy smoke, horses began appearing. First, small groups, then entire bands. They moved toward Miracle, like soldiers following a leader. He called again, another sharp, guiding signal, and the Mustangs shifted direction as one, following the safest path away from the fire. Fire crews watched in disbelief. "He's leading them," Commander Stone whispered. "He's telling them where to go." For 8 straight hours, Miracle directed 287 wild Mustangs out of danger. Not a single horse was lost. The story made national news. People called Miracle a hero, a wonder, a gift. But Tom didn't care about headlines. All he cared about was the young horse who had changed his life. When the fire finally calmed and evacuated herds were placed in temporary holding, Miracle walked to the edge of his pen. He stood still, ears forward, listening. A distant call floated on the smoky wind. Miracle answered with a sound Tom had never heard from him. High, bright, filled with joy. "That's his family," Anna whispered. A small band of Mustangs emerged through the thinning smoke. Leading them was a striking paint mare. She cried out again, and Miracle's whole body trembled with recognition. Tom's heart sank. "His mama," he said softly. The reunion was quiet and full of emotion. Miracle walked to the open gate. The paint mares stepped forward. Their foreheads touched. Their breathing synced. The band gathered around him, welcoming him home. Tom felt something heavy settle deep in his chest. Anna touched his arm. "You know what this means, Tom." "I know," he said, voice low. Miracle looked back at him one last time, a look filled with understanding, gratitude, love. "You go on, boy," Tom whispered, swallowing the ache in his throat. "That's your world. That's your family. I was just holding you until he got here." Miracle pressed his head gently against Tom's chest one last time. Then he turned and stepped into the wild beside his mother. The Mustangs disappeared into the stretching Wyoming desert. Tom stood watching until they vanished completely. Charlie came up beside him. "Think we'll ever see him again?" Tom smiled sadly. "Maybe, but he's where he belongs." The desert needed him more than I did. Months later, reports came from across the region. Mustang herds were working together in new ways. Injured horses were being found faster. Young foals were surviving at higher rates. The desert itself seemed different, connected. "It's like he's teaching them," Dr. Harris told Tom during a visit. Tom looked out across his land, where he'd built a small sanctuary for any injured Mustang that needed help. "He was always meant to be a teacher," Tom said quietly. "I just didn't realize his classroom was the whole desert." The last confirmed sighting of Miracle came from a photographer who captured him at sunrise, standing on a ridge, strong and proud. A leader, a guide, a symbol. He seemed to look straight into the camera, as if sending a message. Some miracles aren't meant to be kept. Some miracles are meant to be set free.